As you can see, we're here on the banks of the Wando River, and we're going to start today, and we're going to run through some condo complexes out here on Daniel Island, because there's quite a few, and they're varying price points, and each of them kind of unique, so we'll talk about those. But we're right where they plan to put the biggest marina in the southeast, and again on the banks of the Wando River. You've got a lot of walking trails out here. You can probably see over to the right. Those trails kind of run around the perimeter of the tip of the island and allow you to really not get in your car if you don't want to get to anything from grocery stores to a neighborhood next door. So the first condo complex built on Daniel Island was actually Daniel's Landing, and it was not built as condominiums. They were built as apartments in the early 2000s, and this complex here sits up against the banks of the Wando River. You have a fitness center out here. You have a really nice swimming pool. These units have 9-foot ceilings. You have crown molding in them. Some of the kitchens have been redone. Some of them haven't. Some of them are, original apartment complex type kitchens, but you do find many of them today that have been redone. And anything from a 1 to a 3 bedroom unit you can find here. At the time of the filming, the 1 bedrooms, I don't think there's any on the market, but there's a couple of 2s and 3s. And pretty good value, I think, to be on Daniel Island. These, I think, set up well for people that want a second home on the island and don't want to spend, much out of these are in the 2s, maybe even into the low 3s, and the ones that are in the low 3s, you'd have views of water, potentially views of the Wando River, and it sits up kind of next to the Daniel Island Tennis Stadium through an access road. But this is 130 River Landing, and again, on the banks of the Wando River. All the parking is off-street, so you want to keep that in mind. If you're wanting a garage, this is probably not the best condo complex on Daniel Island to buy in. Again, in 130 River Landing, and we're just going to head on over to the one right up from it, which is 200 River Landing. All right, y'all, so just up from 130 River Landing is 200 River Landing, and 200 River Landing is comprised of about 90 units, 3 buildings, 3 stories high. These were built by Trammell Crow back in 2006 and 2007, and these were ones that sold on paper before they even built them. I can remember being out here showing this as just really just dirt, and then they built these things out. They turned out pretty well. I know they had some issues with the stucco on some of these buildings, and they had to rip the stucco down. It's due to flashing issues, and they've since repaired that. But these are really great units. You have pull-under secure parking, and these are more upscale than 130 River Landing. They were actually built as condominiums. So you have more, I guess, a luxury feel in these units. And some of them have, standalone garages like this building here, but most of them you're going to pull under the building to park. These range in size from probably 1,200 square feet to right at 2,000 square feet. And again, 2 and 3 bedroom units, no 1 bedroom units to my knowledge, and about 6 different floor plans. So in 3 main buildings that they built out here, you've got 1 floor living. So the master and everything else is all on 1 floor. They have amenities out here. They have a private swimming pool, which is right behind that building, grilling deck, and a bunch of land dedicated to really more or less green space. They have kind of a cool little fountain set up to add a little tranquility, I suppose. But these, over the years, again, I've sold a bunch of these, and I think that my clients that have bought them have mainly been people that are wanting to downsize. So the demographics is probably a little bit older. It's not like, college-age students living in these, and they would make a great second home here at 200 River Landing on Daniel Island. All right, so we came out of 200 River Landing, and we're going up 7 Farms Drive to 254 7 Farms. And these were built, you have live space on top of these, and then you have a retail downstairs. These were also built by Trammell Crow. Trammell Crow was busy out here in the mid-2000s, and I actually owned one of these and lived in building 200 for right at 2 years before I got remarried, and really liked it out here. I think Daniel Island's a cool spot to be. A little more expensive than Mount Pleasant, but it has an upside. But the ones here at 254 7 Farms are, brick and stucco facades, as you can see. There's about 184 units, and I believe a total of 9 residential buildings. You have a small fitness center, a laundry facility, and you have a swimming pool. So really pretty self-contained, very good as far as location and walking distance to places around Daniel Island. And some of these units have garages. The buildings that we're riding by right now, if you bought one of those, in most cases there would be a garage assigned to it, and they're nothing more than a place to park your car, store your stuff. They're not attached to the buildings. People over the years have really liked these. Again, these were built like 130 River Landing was. These were built as apartments, and then about halfway through the building process, the market got heated up out here on Daniel Island, and the developer decided, well, let's not build these as apartments, let's do these as condos and sell them, which they did, and they were very well received. They shot up in price, and then they settled back down during the recession, and they've kind of gone back up now. You could get a 2-bedroom in the 2s, which is not bad again for Daniel Island. These were built in 2006. You can see over to our left here in a second, they have like a little passive park and a place to walk your dog. So they left a lot of trees, which is always a plus. And again, these were built between, I don't know, 2004 to 2006. And I believe I closed on mine in 2006. So we are heading out of 254-7 Farms, and we're just going to go directly across the street from 254-7 Farms into another condo complex. You know, again, Daniel Island's goal out here was to create a space where you could really live and work and walk. So they've built these condo complexes to create some density of people in the downtown area, and I think it's worked out quite well. So all over to our right is going to be Pier View. They have views of the marsh, views of the Wando River if you're on the top floor. They're brick and stucco, and they consist of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. These were, again, built by Trammell Crow back in the day, and they range in size from about 885 square feet on up to a little over 2,200 square feet. Pretty good high-end finishes. I mean, these would be on par, I think, with 200 River Landing. There's off-street parking, and then they have covered parking, as you can see, probably directly in front of us is the gates to go in there. And then they have a pool that's just set up for people that live inside of Pier View. These are a little bit different than the ones we left at 254-7 Farms. These actually have elevators, so if you need an elevator or feel like you're going to need one down the road, I would highly recommend Pier View. You have individual storage units with each building. You can have trash pickup from inside the building, so you have like a trash chute. And these are really, I think, pretty upscale. Across the street, as you may be able to see, we're not going to, do a video on it, but they're finally building some more luxury apartments out here on Daniel Island, and those are slated to open in the next probably 3 months, and those will be pretty expensive from what I hear. They haven't released pricing, but I hear they're going to be top of market as far as rent goes. So from here, we are heading out of Pier View, and we're going to go a little into Center Park will be our next stop. All right, y'all, so we just are heading up from the downtown part of Daniel Island, maybe a half a mile from where we were a few minutes ago. We're in Center Park Townhomes, and these are townhomes that, brick facades. They have courtyards in the back. Some of them have garages. A lot of them just have storage sheds and parking pads. It just depends on the unit. And these were built in the early 2000s. They did have some issues with the flashing on these, I think in the roofs. That was a long time ago, and they corrected it. And these have sold quite well. I think that these are pretty good values. I actually have one listed over here right now. It's a shameless plug, but 805 Center Park is on the market for $395,000 for a 3-bedroom unit. They have 3-bedroom units and they have 2-bedroom units. The end units, if you can get one, are probably my favorite setup with Center Park. You have a lot more light because you have the extra set of windows and you have a little more privacy off to the side yard. But you can see it sets up around Center Park, and a good place for kids to play. These would be a good spot if you wanted to get into Daniel Island School District with your kids and needed, these range in square footage from probably the 1,500s to about 2,000 square feet. So you could get something that you could raise your family in, and the kids' school is right down the street. All right, so just down the street from Center Park is the Daniel Island School, and that is a grade and middle school. We're shooting this video during the summer, but during school year, the bike racks out here are just slammed full of bicycles. So everybody rides their bike to school, and I think it's a pretty cool setup, and people really like living here. We're gonna go into the condo complex. It's called Parkside, and Parkside sits really close to Daniel Island School and is actually in Smythe Park. These are on Blakeway Street, so 1225 Blakeway Street is the actual physical address of these. And these were built in the probably 2007, 2008. A total of 84 units, built by Trammell Crow. And sizes range anywhere from probably 1,100 to 1,400 square feet. just 2 and 3 bedroom units. These were built originally as income contingent types of places that you had to have a certain amount of income or below a certain amount of income in order to buy these. And they were built as condos. They have, I think, better finishes than what you would, find in some of the apartment complexes that were turned into condos on Daniel Island. Walk-in closets, good sized master bedrooms. A lot of them have nice sized porches. And you have off-street parking here. So again, this is one of those setups out here with Parkside that you would not have any covered parking. You just would be parking on the street, and I think there's 2 spaces assigned to each unit. Owners are automatically part of the Daniel Island Community Association, and if you wanted to use, the pools here, the Scott Park pool or Pier Park pool, you could use it if you lived in Parkside. And you can see over to our right, that's the back side of the Daniel Island School baseball field. And these are real convenient and would be good options either to buy or to lease if you wanted to get on the island fairly inexpensively for your kids to go to school. These would be good options. And I have had some clients buy these as second homes, and they seem to work out well in that respect. But we're in Parkside, which is in Smythe Park on Daniel Island. We're still in Smythe Park, y'all, and we're coming over to look at some luxury townhomes that John Wieland is building. These are elevator-ready townhomes, because they're very vertical. They have, close proximity to the schools, if that's important. These are pretty big townhomes. I want to say they're over 3,000 square feet. Really high-end finishes for what you're getting. They have like rooftop decks and just great views out to the bridge, and you can, some of them even have glimpses of the water. Great kitchens on these. Wieland builds a range of houses. They built a lot of single families. So a lot of the single families we've ridden by out here are built by Wieland. But they built these and they've sold very well. And they've got 2 sets of buildings, and they're finishing up the second set now. And they overlook a park. Again, I like these. They're ones that you would have to be prepared for, some tall living, because it is 3 stories. But I think these set up real well. And again, these are the John Wieland townhomes in Smythe Park. All right, y'all, so we have headed over to the north end of the island, so really close to Daniel Island Park. But before we go there, we're going to go into FAIRBANK Oaks. And FAIRBANK Oaks sits right up against the backside of Governor's Park. And Governor's Park is City of Charleston and the Daniel Island companies coming together and building a recreational park. So my sons play flag football out here on Saturdays during the fall and winter. And then they have baseball games, and they use this for a lot of things, soccer, but it's wide open on Saturdays and Sundays with all kinds of kids' activities and just a lot of green space. But this sets up right next to the condo complex that I'm going to pass you guys through, which is FAIRBANK Oaks. Directly out in front of us is FAIRBANK Oaks, and these were built in 2006. You can't see it from here, but these sit on the banks of the Wando River, have long views of the Wando, marsh views, really pretty grand oaks behind these. So these have, wraparound porches. They have 11-foot ceilings, nice tall windows. These things get a lot of light. They were part of a big class action lawsuit from the builder, and they had some flashing issues, which they have corrected, and these sat for a long time. And a lot of them honestly were foreclosed on and resold. They originally sold in the 7s and 8s, and some of them close to $1 million. And then they resold at the very bottom of the market when the litigation was going on. And if you don't know, when litigation happens on a building, it's hard to get financing, or it's nearly impossible. So these were, in my opinion, some of the better buys that you could have made on Daniel Island several years ago, simply because where they sit now, they're completely fixed, and you're looking at $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 now for FAIRBANK Oaks. And they have pull-under parking, elevators, so just really high-end luxury. You go right past the middle building of FAIRBANK Oaks, and you go into the Oaks at Riverside. And Oaks at Riverside are true deep water luxury condos, and these range probably right at $1 million and maybe a shade more. There's a couple of buildings. There's one building here and there's one through the trees. Again, come with boat slips, super high-end kitchens, Wolf, Sub-Zero, Viking. Most of them are probably about 3,200 square feet. I think the biggest ones are about 3,500 square feet. Private balconies. And if you're wanting to get on Daniel Island and you absolutely have to have a deep water boat slip, these would be the place to go. But again, these are the Oaks at Riverside, and they sit right behind FAIRBANK Oaks, ones that were built a little before these. But these are new, and again, the Oaks at Riverside, prices right at $1 million. All right, y'all, so we're back in Daniel Island Park, and I'm gonna take you guys by and show you Grove Park, which again is located inside of Daniel Island Park. And these began construction in 2003, and I believe finished up in probably 2006. And they were Daniel Island Park's first non-single family home product that they brought to market. And these were built by the J.D. Smythe Company, which Donnie Smith was and still is, I believe, a custom builder out here on the island. He did a ton of building during the boom. These are, you can see brick fronted, 2,700 to 4,000 square feet. So these are really, some of these are quite large, 3 to 5 bedrooms, gourmet kitchens, private courtyards in the back, and most of them have rooms over the garages. And then again, they sit on a park they call Grove Park. And this comes with a membership to the Daniel Island Club as a social member. And you have the opportunity to upgrade to a full golf membership. These are selling probably right now, or in the summer of 2015, these are selling in the $700,000 to $900,000 range. And they sit up against part of the single family homes that have been built back here in Daniel Island Park. But again, Grove Park, located in Daniel Island Park on Daniel Island. All right, y'all, so we are continuing back into Daniel Island Park, and we're just going to spin by Rivergreen Place. And Rivergreen Place is located again in Daniel Island Park. These over to the left were built by David Weekley, and these are luxury townhomes. They're alley fed in the back, and I will show y'all that as we ride around. Several different plans to choose from. I think maybe 4 different plans, anywhere from a 3-bedroom to your 4-bedroom unit. And David Weekley, if you don't know, David Weekley is a production builder. He's built a ton on Daniel Island over the years. And he builds, I wouldn't say he builds the highest of the high end, but he builds a good house. I mean, I think for the money, these were priced in 7s initially. I think they've resold lately and probably in the 8s or 9s. But again, this is Rivergreen Place, and pull under parking, courtyards in the back. And if you're wanting to be in Daniel Island Park, this is, honestly, is a pretty good way to go. I've had some clients that have really liked these, and these would be good second home options. If you weren't here a lot, you would have something that really wouldn't need a whole lot of maintenance. And from Rivergreen Place, we're going to hit one more condo complex before we leave Daniel Island Park. All right, so just up from Rivergreen Place is 250 Island Park Drive. 250 Island Park Drive is in Daniel Island Park, and you can see from the views, you have golf course views pretty much on all of these units. These are high-end, Viking, Sub-Zero, Wolf. They have coffered ceilings, granite countertops, screen porches, covered wraparound. There was, again, some litigation on these. First of all, I think there were some noise issues, but I think that was really due to just somebody that complained a lot about everything, and they had some flashing issues that they've repaired. So, full disclosure, these have been completely repaired as far as I know. 250 Island Park Drive, high-end condos, and great views of the golf course. So if you're a golfer and you want a spot that's all one-floor living, they have elevators, I would recommend these. Anywhere from the 2,500 square foot range-ish for 250 Island Park Drive.